bringing you banger after banger after banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. It's your favorite video game music podcast hosted by two big goobers, Bit Harmony.
You're listening, as always, because I know you're always listening, to Bit Harmony, a video game music podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Seth.
Today, we are talking about Dustforce, I think we've made this comment before, the long-promised Dustforce episode. Yeah. But before the dust was realized, this was going to be like the third episode, and then we took a back seat. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. I don't know if I have too much more of a preamble. Our intro this episode is Cider Time, which this is probably the song from Dustforce. I was like, do I really want to open the whole show up with Cider Time? Like, that's such an obvious choice. But then I was like, yeah, we should just open up with Cider Time.
Yeah, it probably is like I think when most people, if you've played Dustforce, if you think about Dustforce, this is probably the song you think of. Yeah.
I have a feeling,
time, you know?
Yeah, it is about Cider Time. I do have a feeling, even if someone hasn't played Dustforce, there's a good chance you've heard it, if not this song, probably at least one other song on the soundtrack. But yeah, that is going to be Cider Time by Lifeformed, and we will be right back. And that was Cider Time by Lifeformed off of the Dustforce soundtrack, which I guess the soundtrack itself is called Fastfall, which is kind of confusing. Yeah. But yeah, do we even have any notes about Cider Time? Like, what can I really say about Cider Time?
Yeah, it's funny because this was an interesting episode to put notes together for. I have some, like notes on specific things on some of the songs we're going to highlight on this episode, but so much of it is just vibes, right?
Yeah.
Like this is just some vibey, like driving into the sunset music, I get the only real thing that I want to shout out though, and this is going to be true of every song on this entire OST. The names are so good. The song titles are so good and so evocative. Like Dustforce is a game all about like sweeping up leaves, so it has like fall vibes, and Cider Time is just so evocative of fall. And fun fact, right before we started recording this morning, I did eat an apple cider donut. I did wolf down an apple cider donut. So it is literally cider time for me here.
So, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but last episode we talked about like gross food habits. Do you have any like bougie food habits? Because I've got one. Not that I've engaged with it in a long time, but
bougie.
The one bougie food habit I have, and again, I haven't done this in years because I don't have a microwave anymore. But I'd get apple cider, and stick it in a mug, and buy a pack of actual cinnamon sticks, and put the cinnamon stick in there, and you microwave it. It was expensive for what amounted to just like a hot baby drink, but hot apple cider with a cinnamon stick actually in that thing is incredible.
I love apple cider. Yeah, I'm a huge apple cider fan. I really like we don't do this often, but we used to at Christmas time. We would make like mulled wine. And we would do like, hot mulled wine, and you put it on the stove and you reduce it, and you put like oranges and cinnamon sticks and stuff in it. And but I don't know if I'd call that a habit. I don't know. I don't really, the bougiest I think I get with my sort of like more routine habits is if I have the time, I do like to French press my coffee and like, spend some time actually making my coffee like a jerk. But if I don't have time, I'm also not above just like throwing a K-cup in the Keurig and moving on with my day either.
What I'm learning is that cinnamon sticks are just for rich people, like that, because we both went out of our way to mention cinnamon sticks.
Cinnamon sticks are for the rich. That's the telltale sign. If you have cinnamon sticks in your pantry, you're probably rich.
That definitely was not true when I had cinnamon sticks in my pantry.
It wasn't for me either. Never been rich ever in my life.
When it comes to, so I guess first of all, we were talking about this a little bit before the recording. A handy YouTube user named the Bob Will commented on every single official upload of the Dustforce soundtrack with extracts from the liner notes of the album. So he was just posting little snippets of what Lifeformed was saying about each song. For Cider Time, he wrote, as development of the game progressed and the seasons got colder, Mary would sometimes create for us a large batch of warm, spiced, and spiked apple cider. We would work for some period of time until Mary would announce that it was suddenly cider time. If you listen closely around the 25-second mark, her voice is introduced as a faint vocal. I had never noticed that before until I read that comment, and I instantly was like, what are you talking? You're lying, the Bob Will. And then I went in there, and it's very faint, but at 25 seconds, you can hear very, very, very soft female vocals in there.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was listening, but I didn't think twice about it. That's really cool. What a cool, the liner notes are all really cool, actually, in this. It's a lot of, like, neat little tidbits, but, the Cider Time thing, that's pretty neat. And I also, the alternative would be funny, like, if the Bob Will was just lying about all of that, like, he just made up all these stories. That'd be pretty sick, too.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Lifeformed can neither confirm nor deny the Mary Cider Time story is true. I will say real quick, and we're going to get into it later, but I believe I mentioned it on an earlier episode, like a much earlier episode, but I heard, it wasn't the first time, but I heard the Dustforce soundtrack being played on NPR like a decade ago, and it was this song that played. I mean, again, it is the song off of the soundtrack, and you know, I've never been like a big like everyone must accept games as a high art form person, like whatever.
Sure,
let's just have fun. Video games are art, but there's no debate. If you're making this big of a deal out of it, people are just gonna look down on you anyway. Video games are art. It's fine. Just leave it be. If people don't want to think it is, just let them go. It doesn't really matter. But hearing video game music like that on the radio, that wasn't like just like chiptune-y stuff that they're playing in like interstitials or whatever, that really felt like a big paradigm shift to me at the time. Like, that's just kind of what this soundtrack in general was to me about again, around a decade ago. I did end up falling down a rabbit hole. I'll save it till later. But I did learn the origins of why Dustforce was played on NPR. And I learned some very interesting facts about that stuff that we'll get into later. But otherwise, yeah, it's not a note about the song, but it's a note about what you said earlier about it's like driving into the sunset music. Yeah, I was working my awful third shift Walmart job when this game and the soundtrack came out. And I've talked about it before, but like just my mood and my general depression or whatever as a early 20s young man. There was one time where the Dustforce soundtrack was playing on my way home from my third shift job, and the sun was rising, and I just kept driving into the sunset. Like I missed my turn by like 20 minutes. Like I just kept going. I consciously kept going. And then I at one point I turned around and I'm like, do I even have to turn around? What if I just kept driving? Like what would actually happen if I just kept driving? That's both a dark and a hopeful thought. Who knows? But I don't need to know now. It's fine. Everything is fine. I promise.
I've had those moments though. I definitely relate to that. Like, you know, it's funny. I felt like when I was that age, when I was sort of like early 20s or whatever, late teens, early 20s, when I was really driving, you know, like when I was driving a lot, I get very like introspective when I'm driving, especially driving by myself. And I definitely have had, you know, moments like that, so I can relate. But nowadays, like, not only do I just not drive that much anymore nowadays, just in general, but yeah, I don't really feel that way anymore. I don't know if that's just part of being 35 or whatever, but yeah, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't driven since I moved to Germany. We don't have a car. I would love to go the rest of my life without ever owning a car again.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, yeah, I don't have that opportunity anymore. And then like when I am alone with my thoughts, if I'm being honest, I'm mostly thinking about like video games now. Like it's mostly like this past week, whenever I was like doing dishes, I'm like, oh, I could play more Dustforce after this is done. That'll be cool. But anyway, I think that's all I had for Cider Time. Did you have anything else?
No, I think we covered it. It is interesting that we both arrived at like driving though with this song. That's kind of funny.
Again, yeah. I get the hunch that that's also like a Midwest sad boy. Like
totally,
you grew up in the cornfields. You're gonna drive and think about life a lot because there's not much else to do.
Yeah, and not much else to see on the horizon either. Like the Midwest is so flat that like. Yeah, when I think about like the Midwest, I do think about like driving just to nowhere, like into just like a sunset horizon, you know? Yeah, interesting.
We should do Stephanie soon. We gotta revisit the Mellows Hantani music here. With that said, general housekeeping before we get into like the reviews and post-mortem and voicemails, you have a little bit, or not a little bit, but a big bit of an announcement.
Yeah, it's funny. It's pretty much right now as we're recording this. The first episode of the KoopaCast is going live for patrons. It's going to be released publicly on the 15th of September because I messed up. I wanted the show to it's the new podcast on our network. it's kind of like the spiritual successor to All In, a Nintendo podcast, and it's going live on the 15th because it's going to trade weeks with Bit Harmony essentially. So like one Sunday you'll get Bit Harmony, the following Sunday you'll get the Koopa Cast, and then rinse and repeat. And when I was first putting it all together, I was like, oh, it's perfect. It makes sense because I wanted to launch it on my birthday, September 4th, for patrons, and I thought to myself, well, you know, that's on an off week for Bit Harmony, I think, so it should work out, and it totally does not. I would have needed to launch it on September 1st publicly for that to make any amount of sense. So, because of that, patrons are getting like 11-day early access to the first episode, which it's fine. It's you know, it's a good thing that I also talk about news stories that will probably be horribly outdated by the time that episode goes out on free feeds. So it's fine.
Speaking of news stories, Bit Harmony officially outlived Concord by a significant margin.
Margin, yeah.
Which I'm impressed by.
Yeah,
we don't have hundreds of millions of dollars backing us up. We did it. The little guy won. For anyone that doesn't, also, I just dated this episode of the podcast horribly. 6 months from now, no one's going to have any idea what Concord is.
Yeah.
For anyone that happens to listen to Bit Harmony, but like came in through Bit Harmony and didn't check out All In previously, sell me on the Koopa Cast. Give me the elevator pitch for the Koopa Cast.
Okay, yeah, it's a Nintendo variety show. Essentially, every other week, it's going to be a completely different vibe and flavor. So the first episode of the show, the meat of the show is me interviewing one of the like only 3 or 4 devs behind Arco, which is a very special indie game that like nobody played, and that's kind of like a big mission statement with the Koopa Cast. Is I wanted to make sure that people were, you know, indies have always been a big part of All N's DNA, and just me also. Like I play almost exclusively indie games these days, and I just want to make sure that games like Arco get a spotlight, and it felt big and important for me to dedicate most of the first episode of the Koopa Cast to that, but it's hosted by me, and it's going to be a variety show. It'll be a different kind of flavor and a different sort of feature every week. It's inspired by stuff like Tokyo Game Life. The House of Mario was an inspiration for it. Talking to women about video games was an inspiration for it. And just kind of segments. You never know. One week I might do some kind of top 5. One week I might do an interview. One week I might do a retrospective or a review or something like that. And we might do anything and everything. Nothing is off the table. And also wanted to allow myself a little bit of creative freedom to like fire up the podcast feed and talk about stuff when I want to talk about them. So, you know, there's rumors going around right now that we might get a Switch 2 presentation at some point in the coming month. So if that ends up happening, I'll just fire up the Koopa Cast and we'll just talk about it, and that'll be an episode, you know. So I just wanted to it's really just about variety and creative freedom. So if you like Nintendo, hopefully you'll like that. So
yeah, and if anyone is curious, you'll get to check that out some point down the road, like 2 weeks from now. If you don't subscribe to the Patreon.
On the free feed, it'll be next week. So on the free feeds, it'll be next week. But yeah, if you want to listen to it now, it is on Patreon significantly early.
I haven't gotten to listen to it yet. Obviously, I'll get to check it out pretty soon. I'll just say ahead of time that Arco does indeed rule, and if you like strategy crossed with like visual novel-esque storytelling, but like with significant circumstances, significant things happening based on the choices you make, you should check out Arco. It's very, very cool.
It's a cool interview too. There's so much love and passion that went into that game, and it's so clear talking to them. And check it out.
And then when it comes to reviews, I don't think we have a review, but we do have a comment, yes?
Yeah. So no new reviews. Again, you can leave 5-star reviews on your podcatcher of choice. If you leave a written review on iTunes or whatever, I will shout out here on the show. And you can also leave comments on Spotify in addition to rating the show. We really appreciate that. And yes, Wilk commented on the last episode where, if y'all listened to the last episode, he had commented about Mario Kart 64 being the worst Mario Kart. And we sort of wondered aloud if Wilk paused the episode to leave that comment or if he just festered on it for the entire 3 hours and then left it afterwards. And he did verify with a comment on that episode, I didn't pause to leave my last comment.
It's good to know.
So, yeah, good to know. I do like imagining Wilk just stewing on Mario Kart 64 while listening to that whole episode.
Dude, I've been stewing on Mario Kart 64 for 25 years now. It never gets better. Never gets better. It's an awful game. Awful game. Post-mortem on Kirby Canvas Curse, I don't have a ton to say. I'll say, again, we're going to get to it in a second with the voicemails. Was surprised by how much people seem to want to talk about gross food habits. I guess maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I guess it's the early 2000s episode, and that being one of our most listened to episodes. People just want to be able to they want to be able to insert themselves into a story, and then if they hear
sure,
oh, you think you've got gross food eating habit? Let me tell you about this kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of shocked me. I'll also just say that I said it on the episode that Kirby Canvas Curse, the soundtrack wasn't as good to me listening to it now in 2024 as I remembered it being 20 years ago. It was still good. I still liked it, obviously. I'll just say Dustforce as a game is kind of the opposite of that. It really blew me away in terms of how much I ended up enjoying it when I didn't like it back in the day, but we'll talk about that when we get to the gameplay. Did you have any post-mortem thoughts on Kirby Canvas Curse?
I agree with you. The food eating habits thing is funny because it's also a huge motif of Kirby, right? Just eating stuff, So it kind of just worked out that way. And I just like most things on the show, I truly don't remember how we arrived at that, anyways. But
yeah, me either.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad people enjoyed it. I'm glad it spurred that sort of conversation regardless.
Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it then. Do we want to get into the voicemails?
Let's do it. The first voicemail this week comes to us from Presto. So let's hear from Presto.
Hello, Bit Harmony. It's me again, Presto, back with another RSOT and other commentary, I guess. The Butter Building remix, Silent Seabed, is probably my favorite song from Canvas Curse. But also Butter Building is top 5 Kirby songs, period, for me, so that's unsurprising. But I really do love the spin that song puts on it, and also just the entire... I didn't realize how glitchy and techno the entire soundtrack was until I listened to the episode, but I really like it. It's just a very fun... It feels like a precursor to Planet Robobot's soundtrack in a way, even though Planet Robobot's soundtrack is completely different. But it's almost the same vibe, but also not quite. Because Planet Robobot is a lot more dubstep-y. That's a great game. I love Planet Robobot. As for Dustforce, I know absolutely nothing about this game or what it is, and I'm ready to be educated and also listen to some great music. And finally, my RSO, my random song of the episode. Okay, so there's a bit of a story behind this one. I had just finished listening to the Monkey Ball Banana Mania soundtrack.
Let's go.
I liked the bits that I got in the episode, and I was like, yeah, I'll just listen to the whole soundtrack like I did with Foam Stars, and I love the Foam Stars soundtrack. But I listened to it, and I was like, then Apple Music, where I listened to it on, was like, because you enjoyed the Monkey Ball soundtrack, you might like these songs. And the top of it was a list for Vivid Night. No idea what this game is. I looked up screenshots, and it looks like a really bad gacha mobile game, right? But I start listening to the soundtrack. I'm like, yeah, sure. Oh, why not? I'm not doing anything else right now. I'll just turn on a couple songs. And I'm like, this actually has a good soundtrack. Probably not the greatest, but for a gacha mobile game, I was not expecting to get almost Xenoblade level things. And it's not Xenoblade level, but it's pretty close.
No, it isn't.
It's in the same vein for RPG music. So my random song of the episode is Vivid Night original soundtracks, Hidden Treasure Room in Battle. The song, again, just lots of Xenoblade vibes, lots of great guitar. I wasn't expecting it, and I really like it. So I think this might be the randomest song that I've ever sent into an episode, but I hope you all enjoy. And I think that's it for my voicemail. So remember, kids, don't eat dog cookies. Not a great plan.
What is that a reference to something? Don't eat dog cookies?
On the last episode, I was talking about a family member that was eating dog cookies, and family member tricked them into thinking they were going to go blind by eating dog cookies.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's what he's referencing. Okay. I was so confused by that. I was like, am I missing something? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'll just say, it's funny, the Planet Robobot soundtrack, it is also like remixy and like electronics-y, which makes sense with the story of the game also, since like Planet Popstar has been taken over by was it the Holtman Corporation or something like that?
Yeah.
And it is doing like a similar thing, but in its own way. It is very much its own soundtrack. Planet Robobot, gun to my head, I think that's still my favorite Kirby game. I think it's Planet Robobot, Forgotten Land, and Return to Dreamland Deluxe. I was even thinking about trying to I don't want to dedicate a whole episode to just like Robobot, I think, but at the same time you could do like a trilogy of like Return to Dreamland, Triple Deluxe,
Absolutely.
and Robobot. Like that could be kind of cool. I don't know. But I was glad Presto shouted that out. Do we want to go on a break then before we start talking about the song in depth?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right, so that is Presto's random song of the episode. We're about to break for. That is Hidden Treasure Room in Battle from VIII Night, which I also have no idea what that is, but let's take a listen.
I've never heard of it before today. Yeah, let's take a listen.
And that was Hidden Treasure Room in Battle from VIII Night off of, it's from the VIII Night OST. That is Presto's random song of the episode. I'm going to disagree and say that I don't think this is the most random song of the episode. I still think that goes to the Jackbox song.
I was going to say, yeah.
On the previous episode. I get the Xenoblade comparisons and yeah, I also agree with Seth that no, it's not on the level of Xenoblade, but that's also unfair, I think. It reminds me more specifically, and Presto might not be familiar with this, but of the Ys games.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It just so overwrought and cheesy with electric guitars. Like, it is just straight up like butt rock in like a good way.
It's like Dragon Force, vibes or something. Just like heavy arpeggiated guitars, double bass drum fills. Like, it's that kind of thing. And for me, Xenoblade, the reason I don't think that this is similar to Xenoblade, for me personally, is that Xenoblade has like a good mix of like, yeah, there is guitar, especially in Xenoblade 3. There's a lot of like heavy electric guitar stuff, and like certainly like some metal or hard rock influences or whatever. But I think Xenoblade always has its kind of roots in more classical music. And even when it's something like that, it's still the composition of it, the flow of it is still ultimately pretty classical. And this does not give me that. Not that it's bad or whatever. I liked it overall. I would have been so into something like this when I was like 14, right? But it didn't immediately give me Xenoblade. But I could understand the thought behind that.
For me, I think it, like, when it gets like real climactic anime power of friendship sounding around like 109, sure. I think that's like when it reminds me the most of Xenoblade. Maybe also when the song has the audacity to do like an organ sound font. I think it was near 2 minutes in. That struck me. Maybe less Xenoblade and more just like, I don't know, overwrought JRPG melodrama kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely hitting that vibe. And also, yeah, if I heard this song on its own without being told that it's apparently some kind of gotcha thing, I'd be like, what is this? Like, I would just assume this is like an action RPG on the Switch from like 2018.
Yeah, I have a note here, and I don't know what I was driving at with this, but I wrote these notes at like 2:00 in the morning, and so I said, do I detect some faint horns in the background at certain points, or is it late and am I hallucinating? So I think that maybe there's some horns in there in the background of it, but like, yeah, obviously the main drive is like the drums and the guitars, but yeah, it's like pretty clean sounding, pretty driving, pretty anime power of friendship. I get it, and I did see, like, you linked me the YouTube video for it, and like the artwork of the game is very like anime gotcha, sort of thing. So it all tracks. Like this, I'm like, yep, this all makes sense.
It's funny though when like random mobile gotcha games have like even like pretty decent soundtracks,
right.
Like,
yeah,
I think of, now granted this was a Nintendo first party release, but that Dragalia Lost,
right,
pretty dang good soundtrack. I played a good like 30 hours of that, and I never played games like that, and it was because of A, the soundtrack, and then
people
B,
love that game.
It was genuinely decent, and I kind of wish it was on Switch. Also, they had a Mega Man collaboration, and Mega Man was very cute looking there.
I don't think I knew that. That's cool.
That was the whole. I think Colin messaged me. He's like, "Did you see this? Dragalia Lost is doing a Mega Man thing." I'm like, "All right, I guess I'm going to download this." And then yeah, it was a really good collaboration. I think because that game was all about like dragons, and like you could like power up your character by like pairing them with dragons. And then I think not only was Mega Man a playable character in there, but one of the dragons they brought over was like the dragon boss from Wily 1 in Mega Man 2, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's sick.
Genuinely pretty cool. But yeah, I find it very interesting when like seemingly like lower budget mobile gotcha games still have a lot of like attention paid to the soundtrack. And maybe I shouldn't, because again, I know gotcha and mobile games, they make bank. That's why they keep making them, at least if you can hit it big. So again, maybe that's just my own biases showing that I'm always surprised when a gacha game has a cool soundtrack.
Yeah, maybe that is like on us, right? Because we're just like, gacha games,
right?
Old man shaking his fist at gacha games or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, and it's funny that the Presto mentioned Foam Stars too, because I think it just goes to show that, like, regardless of the game itself, like, a good soundtrack is just a good soundtrack,
right?
You know what I mean? So
we've all listened to the Cheetahmen 2 soundtrack.
yeah, that's good examples of just, like, you know. And in fact, that might be a fun, like, topic episode someday, like the games that are not good but have, like, really good soundtracks.
Yeah, Plog.
That could be a thing. Yeah, like Plog. Absolutely.
I've had that idea written down for a long time, and yeah, it's just one of those things I never know when to pull the trigger on it. Also, with a topic like that, then you have to be like, who's going to come out of the woodwork to tell me that actually Plog isn't an awful platformer? I shouldn't say awful, but it's not very good. Like, come on. The soundtrack is cool and, like, the game is cool, but come on, it's not that good.
It's interesting, at least.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting game, at least, but yeah, going back to it is a little rough. It's got some cool ideas, some interesting ideas. I like the art, the soundtrack's incredible, but
the storytelling is even kind of cool, what they're doing with, like, flashbacks and whatever, but how did this turn into a Plok episode? Yeah, we should stop ourselves. Save ourselves for that theoretical episode sometime in the future. Yeah. Do we want to then get to the next voicemail?
Let's do it. This is a quick one from Wilk, a validating voicemail if ever I've heard one. So let's hear from Wilk.
Hey, dude. So I know y'all were about the drum boy? The horn boys. Well, after the last episode and Seth's story about butter, I've also got a story about butter. It's starting to sound like it's butter boys. As a kid, I used to wake up in the middle of the night and go and eat margarine out of a tub. And I remember my mom catching me one time when I was very little and asking me why at 2 a.m. I was eating butter with my fingers. I don't think I had a good response to her. I don't remember how long this went on for, but it was definitely a while. So Seth didn't feel alone in the fact that other people we know were also eating butter in the middle of the night, but just wanted to share that tidbit. Bye.
I love it. Thanks, Wilk.
Yeah, thanks for the life-affirming margarine story. Also, when he said tub, I assume he just means like out of like a butter tub or whatever. But at first,
like
when I heard
country
it,
crock.
yeah.
You know,
at first, when I heard it, I thought he meant that his family had a bathtub full of margarine that he was just dipping his finger.
Yeah. This is our margarine bathroom.
Yeah,
we have the spare margarine bathroom. Isn't margarine like oil? Like, isn't it just like coagulated vegetable oil? Isn't that what that is?
I was talking to my wife a little bit about this, and because she was saying that she also but it wasn't like a secret. Like sometimes she just had a little bit of margarine, and I think she said she had stuff in it too. It wasn't just pure margarine, but she was saying margarine is like a little different than butter, and she was saying it is, now maybe this is biased because she's also a margarine eater. But she was saying margarine is it's not that gross to just eat margarine as opposed to just like eating a stick of butter, I guess.
I think they're both gross. But it's like, the thing about it is, right, is like, I mean, like what you like, let your freak flag fly, right? But like, it's just, both of them are just fats. Like, you know, butter is made of like milk and dairy fats or whatever, and margarine is made of like oil, which is also a fat. So, but growing up, my grandparents had exclusively margarine. Like they didn't even use butter at all. It was all margarine. They would always have that big, like, Country Crock is maybe like the worst branding I think I've ever seen. Because they're just like these big, like, brown gray tubs with like stamps of like a farm on it with like awful font of Country Crock margarine. And like growing up, my grandparents would use it, and then when it was empty, they would just use it as basically a Tupperware, like a poor man's Tupperware or something. Mm-hmm. And so like anytime my grandmother would send me with like food, it was always in like a Country Crock container. Yeah, I don't know, but I've never just eaten straight margarine either. But butter, I'm not above the butter when I was a kid. Yeah. Not above the butter. A little more highbrow.
Yeah, you need the pure butter. What about I can't believe it's not butter. Do you ever eat the not butter?
I don't know that I've ever had that ever in my life. I can't believe it's not butter.
My grandma, that was exclusively what she was always getting. She was always like, we're not going to get soda, but we're going to get diet soda. We're not going to get butter, but we're going to get, I can't believe it's not butter. And then at one Thanksgiving, I was probably a teenager. I said something about like, I'm sick of this like fake ass butter, I think is the exact wording I said.
I've had it.
And she got real indignant and she's like, it's not fake butter. And I said, the name of it is literally that it's not butter.
Yeah, this actually, we have listeners in like the UK and stuff. There's actually a product in America called I can't believe it's not butter. Like that's not a phrase or a motto. That's actually the name of the product.
Right. It is a butter replacement. I mean, I think it's fine on toast or whatever, but like we're doing like Thanksgiving or Christmas or something. You want me to put this on like a baked potato? Get out of here. Yeah. This isn't. No. Well, we're never going to be able to get away from butter. We really are going to be the butter boys.
Butter boys is good. That sounds like a insult that, you know, you would hear like a villain in like a 90s movie, you know, call somebody a butter boy. I always think of what's his name? Dr. Octopus's delivery of Butterfingers when he purposely drops Aunt May in Spider-Man 2. He's like, Butterfingers. Like that's butter boys. If we ever get the opportunity to have like Alfred Molina in any capacity, if I ever meet Alfred Molina, I will ask him to say butter boys.
Dude, you know what? You know what sucked about No Way Home is that they brought those dudes back, and again, Alfred Molina, Willem Dafoe, they're fantastic. They were the best parts of the movie, but then they had them like deliver all the Mimi lines of like I'm something of a scientist myself. Like, get out of here. That's like the most lowbrow pandering thing I've ever seen. It really sucked. But if Alfred Molina had found a way to work in Butterfingers, maybe he drops like a vase in Aunt May's apartment or something. Like Butterfingers, like that would have been pretty good. I think that would have been.
Yeah, it would have been pretty sick. Yeah, that would have been cute. Like I wish it was more cute. I wish it was more like referential to little things like that. But there's the whole like there's like a whole subreddit about Raimi memes and stuff like this. Like I think they basically just looked at that to pull for their jokes or their references for that.
Yeah, movie. I get it. I understand to a certain extent. It's just even. That movie does not hold up after the first viewing, and even on the first viewing, I was kind of annoyed with them using all those Mimi lines, but whatever, it's fine. Man, we keep talking about how this is going to be a short episode, and yet this just keeps happening.
The tangents are talking really bad.
Butter and Spider-Man and whatever else. Anyway, that's been your voicemails for this episode of Bit Harmony. As a reminder, you can send voicemails to bitharmonypod@gmail.com, or you can just send normal emails there if you want. We get some random emails here and there. It's nothing too interesting. I'm waiting for the real cool stuff to come in. Or even better, you can leave us a voicemail by calling in to 216-230-8540. That number again is 216-230-8540. We forgot to do that last episode of this segment, so I want to make sure we got it in there this time.
Gotta hit it. Yeah.
Oh, and as a reminder, keep those to less than 3 minutes if you can, because it will just boot you out, and then you're going to have to redial in or whatever else, and no one wants that.
Yeah. Yeah. Presto, you know what? Shout outs to Presto. That dude gets across a lot of information in 3 minutes.
Yeah. I also
a master.
I also wonder if he's literally like timing himself, because if I remember correctly, I don't have it up in front of me, but that was getting pretty close to 3 minutes. That one, that was like 2:45 or something like that.
Yeah, Presto, like what's your when you call into Bit Harmony, what's the process? Do you have like notes in front of you, a timer in front of you? Like, okay, like I really need to prepare for this voicemail.
Do you
I would love to know that.
Couple practice runs before you actually
a couple dry runs. Let's do a couple dry runs before we dial in. Yeah, I would love to know that. Nothing would make me happier. Let me know, Presto.
And Presto, while you figure that out, while you get your next voicemail figured out, we're going to go on a break. We're going to do Frozen Hot Sauce and the Magnetic Tree from Dustforce as our next break. And then we're going to come back and we're going to actually talk about some Dustforce. So we'll see you on the other side. And that was Frozen Hot Sauce and The Magnetic Tree, both off of Fastfall, the Dustforce soundtrack by Lifeformed. Before we start talking about Dustforce as a game, we'll talk about the songs. Again, I didn't have like a ton of notes for these. I'll say that Frozen Hot Sauce, that it might be my favorite on the soundtrack. It's hard to make that claim, but I think it might be. I'll also read the album notes for Frozen Hot Sauce real quick. This is the last song that I created. I made it in one rush sitting one day before the launch of the game on Steam. We needed one more track for the city environment, and this was the result. So I do find it funny that, if not my favorite, definitely one of my favorites was just created real quick the day before the game came out.
Wow. Yeah,
that's pretty interesting. Otherwise, I just had notes about like, I love the doots. I love the doo-doo-doos. Like, that's all I got.
Good doots. Yep. Good doots. Yeah, I love the bass in this song. It's pretty like, it's subtle for most of it, and then there's like these little like down walks that are really prominent, and it's almost like the bass is almost a second lead, to the point where around the 1:03 mark, the synth lead starts to like sync with the bass melody, which is very satisfying musically for me. But that's pretty much all I had to say about this way. It's really good. It's not my favorite, but it's up there. I mean, all of these are so good.
Yeah,
like, this is just, it's all killer, no filler on this soundtrack. It really is.
There literally is not a bad song on the soundtrack. Like, and yeah, I think the extended version, there's only like 18 songs on here. So over the course of this podcast, you're going to hear like a third of the soundtrack anyway. So, hey, if you like it, go check out the game. Go check out the soundtrack. It's all still up, but the game isn't really up on modern platforms, but it is still up on Steam.
Which is a shame. Like, there are a few games where I'm like, what? I remember, and maybe we even talked about it on this podcast, but I do remember having a moment of like, oh yeah, I haven't played Dustforce in a while. I'll just grab that on my Switch. And I was just like, oh, like, really? This isn't on Switch? Like, this just isn't on here? Like, it's only the easiest way to play this right now is really like PC on Steam? Like,
yeah,
I don't know, man.
We'll talk about it in a little bit here, but I think Hitbox Team, just that it doesn't exist anymore, and I think that's probably why it's never been ported to more modern stuff. Not even on like PS4 or anything. I think it's just PS3, 360, and Vita also, and PC. Before we get to that, I guess again, notes on Magnetic Tree. I don't have much. I'll read the album liner real quick. This is the longest track in the album, and it also took me the longest to create. I went through many variations, but I could not make progress because I had too strictly defined what I wanted the style of the forest to be. I thought the track would be too ambient and dynamic for the game, but it ended up fitting fine once I heard it in context. Which I do think it's funny because like all the songs are pretty ambient anyway. So like it's interesting he was worried about it for this specific song. That said, I do think it definitely is like the moodiest track in the game to me.
Yeah, I mean, this one, my first note here is this one is the most Melos-Ohtani coded for me. Because yeah, this one does have a lot of like interesting choices. Like here in the intro, there's like a lot of good like multi-channel passages, which I like. Some good binaural beeps and boops. You got like a big brooding reverb, in the back. My favorite thing about this song, though, on the percussion, there's like a weird sound that it sounds like this, like a sweeping noise. That the beat of the percussion is. It literally sounds like sweeping a broom. I've also got a note here about the 2:20-ish mark. There's like a sort of haunting passage, like screeching choral notes, where the song gets kind of scary, for a sec. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I also had a note about like very subtle drum beats, and then kind of right behind them is like I had it as like spirit wailing sounds. It genuinely like made me emotional. I guess I'll say about the song The Magnetic Tree is that it's probably the song that like most rose in my estimation upon re-listening to the soundtrack in 2024.
Sure.
I think it was one that I didn't pay much attention to like 10 years ago, but now it's like I'm like, oh yeah, this is actually one of my favorites. Yeah, when I was putting together like what songs we should play in this episode, I got to Magnetic Tree. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then within like 20 seconds, I'm like, no, this is pretty dang good.
Yeah, it's interesting. This almost always happens to me, Like, considering a game's soundtrack within the context of playing the game is such a different experience than considering it on its own. Like, and oftentimes, you know, I do like to at least go back and like touch some of the games that we cover here on the show, but a lot of times I am just kind of listening to them like disconnected from the experience of playing the game.
Right.
And those are two totally different things for me. And it occurs to me, especially with something like Dustforce, I imagine that a large portion of our audience has never played this game. And so it occurs to me that most of you listening probably are getting that experience hearing this music for the first time. And it is different. Like, it does hit different when you hear it in the game versus on its own, and not necessarily always for the better.
Right.
Like, sometimes something like this could get lost when you're playing the game, but when you stop and listen to it on its own, you're like, oh, wait, actually, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's also why I've been so hesitant, like, to do like a big RPG, at least one that I haven't played yet. Like, we've thrown Chrono Cross out there. It's like, I've never played it, and like, I really feel like I want to play it before listening to the entire soundtrack in one go.
Right.
Because not only does it like, you know, you get the experience of hearing the music the way it was meant to be heard, but also it's just it's easier to filter, for me at least, to actually hear the music that way. It's easier for me to be like, oh yeah, this one would be good. Like, if I'm looking at it from the perspective of like, I would add this to my video game music playlist, right? Like, it's just easier for me to process the soundtrack that way. So that was always why, like, I'm hesitant to do certain episodes right now, because like I don't have the time to play through Chrono Cross right now. I want to. I've owned it on Switch for like 2 years, but just don't have the time for it. We'll do Chrono Cross at some point. We'll probably do a lot of RPGs at some point. It's just, yeah, I don't have the time to really sit down, even with just the soundtracks for some of these things. But yeah, with Dustforce, it's nice because like I experienced Dustforce's soundtrack completely removed from the game when I first heard it, and I loved it. So I wouldn't have felt bad if I didn't get the chance to revisit it, but I also did get a chance to revisit it in this case. So it was double fine for me, which is actually kind of a pun. We're going to get to that in a second. An unintentional one. Did you have any other notes for Magnetic Tree?
No, just really good stuff, man.
Yeah.
What a great soundtrack.
Yeah. Like I said, I really barely could scrape together any notes together for most of these songs, because it's just like, yeah, this dude is super talented. He's way more talented than I'll ever be at like anything. So yeah, it's just good. It's just good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about Dustforce. We're going to save the gameplay specific stuff until the next segment, but we'll just give you an overview of what Dustforce is. So this was a side-scrolling, time trial-focused platformer released in 2012 for PC, Mac, and Linux. It was then released in 2014 on the Xbox 360, PS3, and Vita, which I remember playing the demo for this on my Vita. I think I also own it on my Vita, but again, I didn't bring my Vita from America, and that's, again, a decision that haunts me every day at this point.
Wonder how much it is on Vita, because the PSN store on Vita is still up. I might go in and grab it.
It would be cool to have this on a handle. I mean, I know there's Steam Deck, but again, I'm not bougie. I'm not buying cinnamon sticks anymore. I can't afford a Steam Deck right now.
I don't got cinnamon stick money nor Steam Deck money anymore. Yeah.
A note about those console ports. I did not realize that Capcom actually published the console ports until
cool.
I did the research for this episode. Yeah. It was developed by Hitbox Team, which I was really trying to like dig in. Like, their website is still up, but like, yeah, I think they're basically just like disbanded now. It seems like they have all moved on to separate things. Yeah, their website, YouTube haven't been updated since like 2017. They were working on a game. It was a first-person roguelite game called Spire. You can see early test footage of it, but yeah, it didn't ever come out. I have a hunch some of Spire's resources went towards the creation of Devil Daggers and Hyper Demon. That was created by Matt Bush, who is also one of the Hitbox Team members. Have you ever played Devil Daggers or Hyper Demon?
No, but both of those are very good titles for what they are. I feel like I've heard of devil daggers.
I was gonna say, have you even seen footage of them before?
No, I don't think so. But the name devil daggers is familiar to me.
Devil daggers kind of blew up a little bit. What year was that? Like 2017, 2018-ish? I bought it. It is, how do I explain this? It's basically just like a horde mode, but single player, and like you're just like, it's just you shooting a billion things, but it's a first-person shooter. You're kind of trapped in like this dark void, and then as you go, like harder enemies keep spawning. Like you again, you're being attacked because you picked up the devil dagger, and then I think like left clicking the mouse like shoots it out and shoots your devil dagger out in like a machine gun fashion, and then right clicking is like a shotgun shot or something of the sort. Again, it's been like 6 years since I played it. It just got really known as like this very I don't know, like very skill based little indie thing, right? Like it looks cool. It has like a lo-fi poly look to it. Everything is very dark and kind of creepy and mysterious. I feel like it would probably do even better like nowadays than it did back when it came out. Now with the proliferation of streaming and stuff. That said, I believe Hyper Demon, and I keep pronouncing it that way because it's in all caps.
All caps.
As a dumb bit. I believe Hyper Demon is like the spiritual successor to Devil Daggers. I watched a trailer for it, and it looks like kind of exactly how I remember Devil Daggers being, just more refined and better looking. But yeah, again, those were by Matt Bush, who was one of the members of Hitbox Team. Another member of Hitbox Team was Lexi Dostal. When I went to Lexi's Twitter, it has him listed as a programmer and co-founder at Gardens, and I'd never heard of Gardens. Their website is gardens.dev. I just took this little mission statement, or whatever you want to call it, off of their website. We are Gardens, a remote games studio from developers of games like Journey, Edith Finch, Blazeball, Dustforce, Ashen, Ultima Online, and more. We're named after the games we grow together, lush, living worlds that bring players together to cultivate lasting friendships, worlds that offer surprising multiplayer experiences and flourish with the help of their communities. Our upcoming flagship game is a shared fantasy adventure inspired by some of our favorite memories, playing online games, particularly moments shared with strangers. Players will find themselves crossing paths in a shape-shifting, unpredictable wilderness filled with mystery and magic, featuring a timeless visual direction and tactile multiplayer play. It's the world we want to adventure in every day. That all sounded cool. When you go to their website, they have a lot of artwork that they've made for the game. It is all very, very good looking artwork. Also, they have, I don't know, somewhere on their About page, I think, they had an article about funding they've received, and they got funding from some pretty major players, I think, including like Nintendo partners and like Sony and stuff. So yeah, they're making some like online indie action RPG thing, I guess. And specifically on another page, it said their goal is indie creativity with AAA ambitions. In the modern age, that sounds kind of scary to me, but at the same time, it seems like they're doing well. Seems like they're getting good funding, and they have some cool art coming out. So I think they also were at GDC last year and maybe demoed whatever the game is they're working on.
Okay.
And it sounds like it had some good reception, but I couldn't find any footage on it.
Dude, if this art style is what there is indicative of their game, like I'm very into it.
Yeah, it looks great.
Really good. Yeah, and I also love it's a pretty large team, dude. There's a pretty good amount of people on this team for an indie dev. And they have little like, you know, portraits of everybody on there. It's a very like, it reminds me of Final Fantasy Tactics specifically, like the character portraits in Final Fantasy Tactics. Like the art reminds me of that. And yeah, I'm interested in whatever this is. Huh.
Yeah. I had no idea this was a thing. And yeah, like I said, the art genuinely looks really cool. Again, that's gardens.dev if you want to go check out their website. Just browse around. It just seems really cool. Wish them the best of luck, because yeah, that sounds extremely ambitious and maybe frightening in the current landscape of video games to me.
Right. Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah. Next up, listed on the website for the Hitbox team was Terrence Lee. That is Lifeformed, the composer. We'll talk about him in a second. And then last listed was Woodley Nye.
Hell of a name.
Yeah. Also, he's got some hell of opinions about video games, not in a bad way. I want to make clear, not in like an alt-right conspiracy theory way or anything like that. But he's got a very cute frog from Chrono Trigger as his avatar on Twitter. It says he's working on an unannounced project, but he hasn't tweeted in 2 years, which, hey, I can't blame you. I wish I hadn't tweeted in 2 years either.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude.
That said, we will talk about this more in the gameplay specific portion, but he is like the biggest fan of Super Smash Bros. Melee I've ever seen. And I actually saw this tweet going around 2 years ago. I probably even liked it at the time, but I rediscovered it while looking up his Twitter. This is just a tweet that he had about Melee. I've been a broken record about it for years now, but Melee is far and away the most incredible game ever made with zero hyperbole. It's like the medium is in the silent film era and someone dropped 2001: A Space Odyssey. Very, very far ahead of the curve, unfathomable depth. As someone that loves Smash Bros., that's a crazy statement, but I like it. I think it's crazy in a good way.
I love anybody that is like brash enough to like stand on the hill and declare something like that and like just passionate. Like, I love that, dude. And by the way, Melee fans, I mean, and I love Smash as much as the next guy, but Melee fans are, I think, the most passionate, maybe the most passionate fighting game fans, period, by my estimation. Like, Melee fans just ride for that game so incredibly hard. And I love that, like, sort of picture that he painted with that statement. Like, the entire medium of video games is the silent film era, and Melee is 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's crazy.
Which also from the perspective that it's like a not even like a traditional fighter, but it's like a platform fighter where Mario can like beat up Pikachu. Like, that's also very, very funny. Yeah, seems like an interesting dude. From what I could gather, he seemed to be like the one that was like interviewed the most about Dustforce back in the day. So I don't know if he was like the lead or something. I have a hunch he was, based on things we'll talk about in the gameplay section. But otherwise, that is your Hitbox team. And yeah, like I said, I don't think they exist anymore. Well, they individually exist, but as an organization, Hitbox team does not seem to exist anymore. But then again, that brings us back to Terrence Lee, aka Lifeformed. Okay, I was surprised to find that Lifeformed doesn't seem to have that many albums or even EPs out there. Like, it's basically just Dustforce and Tunic when it comes to video game soundtracks. And then he also did the soundtrack for the Double Fine documentary about the Double Fine adventure game that became Broken Age.
Which is incredible, by the way. All that stuff is really good. And it doesn't really shock me. Two Player Productions, who did that, they're very like active in working with composers like Lifeformed with stuff like that. They also did the Penny Arcade series. Penny Arcade did like a TV series, and I think the first 2 seasons were done by Two Player Productions, and the soundtrack to that is also incredible. They're just very good at like fielding the music for the things that they're working on. So I'm not necessarily shocked by that, but I it was funny, like Tunic and this was all I really knew them from, but I didn't realize that was all there really was either.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because you think of Lifeformed is such a cool like handle also, and I think I just always put them like it's like a disaster piece sort of thing. Like, I always just kind of assume.
I always associate Lifeformed and disaster piece. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, yeah, but I just think that, and maybe it's because their style of music is somewhat similar, but I sort of in the way that I associate Lifeform and Disaster Piece, I also always kind of just assumed that Lifeformed had as much work out there as Disaster Piece. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
interesting.
No, I totally know what you mean, because when I looked it up, I was shocked that besides these 3 things, it's basically just some EPs. So yeah, I've never seen Immerse. That's the name of the Double Fine adventure documentary, or maybe it's the name of the OST. I think it's the name of the OST. Yeah. Had never listened to that before because again, I didn't realize it was by Lifeformed. It basically just sounds like what I imagine a Dustforce 2 would have hypothetically sounded like. Like,
sure,
there's even a remix of Cider Time in there. Just neat. It was very neat hearing that like 10 years after the fact. Worth noting that Tunic was composed with Janice Kwan, who I found out is Lifeform's wife. It seems like
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Again, I'm saving it till we get to like the YouTube comment stuff and all the discoveries I made, but found out a lot of stuff that I wasn't expecting to find out. Yeah, it's really cool. Also, the Tunic OST is also really, really damn good.
Yes.
It never hit me like Dustforce did, but also it's doing a very different job for a very different video game. So like I get it. Yeah, Tunic is a fantastic soundtrack. Less fantastic of a game, at least objectively, but it's also a very worthwhile game to check out, regardless of what I feel.
It's one of the coolest games I've ever played. But it's I've got some objective complaints with it too. But that game is so damn cool. Like it's just very neat. I do like it a lot.
Yeah, just one of the neatest video games I've ever played. Something like, not since The Witness have I had like the entire concept of a video game like flipped on its head in the middle of me playing it.
Holy Cross, dude.
Yeah, when you figure out what the Holy Cross is, it is mind blowing.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that. That's one of those video game memories that will be seared in my brain forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's incredible that like it worked in 2022 was when that came out. Like that feels like something that would have worked in the NES days, but not nowadays. But yeah, it really. Man, maybe I should go back and replay Tunic. I don't know.
Yeah, I do like that game. If I ever replayed it, I think I would just turn on like Invincibility and just have fun.
Sure.
But still, that game it's super vibey. I would recommend it to most people who are fans of like, top-down Zelda. I think most people would probably like it, maybe even more than you or I. So
I do too. Besides like the combat, I feel like the combat is just kind of like against bosses at least is just very wonky in a way that I don't know that like the general public likes. But again, not trying to dog on Tunic or anything. It's a cool game, and the soundtrack. If you like what you're hearing here with Dustforce, check out the Tunic soundtrack, and then maybe check out Tunic afterwards. Anyway, that is it for our general Dustforce overview. Let's go on a break for Elvish Piper Academy and Swimming While It Rains.
Oh,
yeah. And then we will come back and talk about it. was Elvish Piper Academy and Swimming While It Rains, both from the Dustforce soundtrack. When it comes to Elvish Piper Academy, I think that's like the best intro in the whole soundtrack to me. Just like the way it starts is just very strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got those little like chittering notes in there. Like part of the Dustforce thing is like the enemies, like when you take them down, they're like these leaf enemies, and like you're saving animals, you're like rescuing animals and stuff. And it kind of reminded me of that. Like the little chittering notes reminds me of like the animals that you're rescuing and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that it's Elvish Piper Academy, and then there's an abundance of flutes in this song.
Absolutely, yes.
Just really like it when there's some flutes. I guess I'll real quick read the album notes. Although this is one of the earlier songs that I made, it turned out to be one of my favorites. I struggled a bit with my other early songs, but once I discovered some fun uses for gating and side chaining, I ended up creating the bright synth wash in the middle of this track, which I was very happy with. Yeah, I also had a note here about, I had the note about the intro being the strongest. I also think 143 just might be my personal pick for like favorite moment on the entire soundtrack, which I get maybe best moment's a weird way to phrase that, but it's just my favorite part on the whole soundtrack, I think. Again, I think Elvish Piper Academy, when I used to listen to the soundtrack a decade ago, I just didn't pay that much attention to it. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about like, when I was like 24 or whatever, I'm like, you can't make a cool song with flutes. And how wrong I was, I think.
Yeah. Well, this is for me the most interesting song on the entire soundtrack. So it makes sense to me to hear that it was one of their favorites to make, because it kind of feels that way to me. Like it's got a lot of interesting like composery choices. I also have a note. I tagged it at 140. Yeah, I just wrote like, love the chunky synth leading us to the big reverberated crescendo of the song. Really makes the song open up and feel more full. That's the moment they also kind of highlighted in the notes there. But the like minor key shifts in the main like flute melody, I love that so much. Like one of my favorite things in music is when melodies don't go where you expect them to. Some people would hear that, and I think that they would think that like it's out of tune or something like that. But really, it's just these little minor key shifts that are happening all the time, and it sounds so cool to me, like so unique. It kind of just like that sort of thing just like tickles my brain. Like when somebody can do like those weird little choices and make it sound appropriate for the vibe they're going for. Right. I'm a sucker for that. That's like one of my favorite things in music.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's the best way to describe it. This is like the most interesting song on the soundtrack, I think. Also makes sense like why 10 years ago I would have been a big dumb idiot and be like, that's the flute one, I'll skip past that.
Sure.
When it comes to Swimming While It Rains, I know this was like your one demand on this episode. Yes.
This is the song for me. Yeah.
Go on.
So, this song for me, like when I think of Dustforce, this is the one for me. Like first of all, what an evocative title. Swimming While It Rains is like one of my favorite song titles ever. Like we had a pool in my kind of childhood home. We had a big pool in the backyard, like an in-ground pool. And I always loved swimming in it when it was raining. Like there's something about that. Like, I don't know why. Like, there's something about being in the pool while it's raining, like the sound of the water hitting water, the feeling of like, I don't know, connection to the water. I love the rain. I'm a huge rain fan, which I know is like a weird thing to be a huge fan of, but
I don't think so.
I used to love like just going outside and like walking in the rain, and there's something about feeling connected to the world around you, this like sort of natural occurring thing. Like it's weird when you stop and think about it. Like the world just like washes itself with rain, all the time. And to be able to connect to that in some ways, like weirdly primal and emotional for me. I don't know. And I don't know. That title is super evocative to me. It makes me emotional. Like this song, when I hear it, just something about it, the way that this song was put together, the sort of hum of that like deep bass underneath the sort of like keys that are going in both channels. It reminds me a little bit of the intro of Such Great Heights, which I think the Postal Service song, I think I've actually referenced that on this show before with some other song. Yeah. So, but it reminds me of that, and it's like the keys are kind of like echoing into space. I have a note here. It's like I'm crying at 2 a.m. listening to this. Like it makes me emotional. It's like I picture like, I don't know, like running tearfully towards your destiny or something. Like when I hear this, I remember we had a YouTube comment forever ago about a guy who was talking about like this should be the soundtrack to my life. Like I want this song to play. If my life was like a movie, I would want this song to play during the end credits of my life's movie. You know, I'm imagining like the end of Garden State, but with this song. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Because it's that vibe. Yeah, because it's also like it's a happy ending, but also like it is very open ended and like, oh yeah, where do we go from here? Well, whatever, we'll figure it out. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. It could also just be I really associate this whole soundtrack with Garden State, probably because I watched Garden State for the first time. Have we talked about Garden State on the show multiple times? I feel like we have. I feel like we have. Yeah. But yeah, like this when this game came out, I was like really getting into like watching movies and playing games and listening to music that wasn't the mainstream stuff. I'm not trying to use mainstream as like a derogatory term, but just like that was the place I was at in my life. I'd peeked behind the curtain and I was playing or watching or listening to so much stuff that I needed more. So I started peeking back further and further and further. And yeah, like I must have watched Garden State when I played this game like that, or when I was listening to the soundtrack or something, because I really associate these two. I mean, for one, I also love the rain. I feel like even people that try and claim that they like sunny weather, I feel like they also like the rain. I don't know if I've ever actually met someone that doesn't like rain, and if you say you don't, I feel like you're weird, because I don't know, maybe that's a bias on my part. Yeah, I also love going outside when it's raining. I love just hearing the rain. Like, it was supposed to thunderstorm last night, and it didn't. And me and my wife were both sitting here like, what the hell? Like, why isn't it thunderstorming? Like, yeah, I'll say this. I'm not a big pool person. I don't really like swimming. Just never been it for me. However, I do like sitting in a pool while it's raining. Like, I like watching the raindrops hit the surface of it. I really, really like that a lot. Yeah, I don't have too many other notes on it. You said it way better than I ever could. But yeah, I don't know. Just the way the song starts with like really gentle rain sounds in the background, but also it kind of sounds like a music box lead in. Like, it gets me. Like, this is also like, I think of Cider Time and I think of this song when I think of the Dustforce soundtrack. Like, these are the two songs. This is another one, dude. Yeah. Like we've talked about this before. I've never sat down and made like my top 10 video game songs ever or whatever, but like this is probably in there. My God, I love it. It's funny that you bring up Garden State, because Garden State is also like, when I think of fall, that movie is another like thing that I think of. Like that, I associate Garden State so much to like falls, like growing up, fall time in Chicago specifically. Like it just makes me think of that for some reason. Like if I had like a mood board of how I picture fall in my head, it would be, you know, your typical like pumpkins and leaves and stuff like that, but Garden State would be on there. I was just gonna say, just a giant Zach Braff head just right on. Yeah. Like if I were to do like just whatever fall represents to me, Garden State is one of them. And I have I have like a playlist on Spotify of like the kind of just like autumn, like things that remind me of fall. And Garden State is certainly in there. So it's really interesting that you brought that up, because this soundtrack also kind of puts me in that fall space, and the game in general kind of puts me in that fall space. So yeah, it's all kind of just an evocative like tonal thing for me. That was also partially the reason why we did it now, was I wanted to like end the summer with like a soundtrack that kind of reminded me of the fall. I wish it could remind me of the fall more while I'm sitting here in this 85-degree heat, sweating like a pig right now.
I guess I should read the liner notes for this. Before I joined the project, the team had other plans for the music of Dustforce. They were interested in having me do the sound effects, but I secretly wanted to do the music above all things. I stayed up late to make a track to try to convince them that I was up to the task, and created this one. And yeah, that's a pretty damn cool origin story for the soundtrack and the song itself. Sick. Yeah,
pretty sick. And I also, just as a quick little full circle moment, the Garden State soundtrack is also how I discovered the Postal Service, because Such Great Heights is on that soundtrack as well. So little full circle moment there.
It's kind of quaint and twee now, but like for 2003 or whenever that movie came out, that had a pretty great soundtrack. Like that.
Yeah, dude.
That is a really, really good soundtrack for back then. If you want to set yourself, if you're like younger, or I don't know, you want to feel like in the mood of 2004. Go listen to the Garden State soundtrack. You don't even need to watch the movie. I don't know if the movie holds up. It probably does. But just listen to the soundtrack and it'll put you right there.
Yeah, I discovered the Postal Service that way. I discovered the Shins that way. Yep. Like, there's some good stuff in there. It feels like, it feels like angsty teen. Like, that movie came out when I was like 15 or something. And there could not have been a more perfect movie to see when I was that age, But yeah, I mean, I really want to rewatch Garden State now. I might do that tonight. I haven't seen that movie in years.
We're announcing the next episode of Bit Harmony. It's a Garden State rewatch podcast.
I'd be so into that. If there's any way to tie that into video games beyond what we've just done here today, I'd be way into that.
Did you have any other notes on either Elvish Piper Academy or Swimming While It Rains?
No, I didn't want to derail that liner notes comment too much either, because that's also you're right, a very sick story. And I like knowing that this is kind of the song that like almost sold Lifeformed as being the composer, because I mean, what a hell of a song to to come in with. So yeah,
really cool. Now we're going to talk about the gameplay specifics of Dustforce. On our last break, we did check the time, and this will definitely be our fabled short episode, relatively speaking.
We're doing it, dude.
Because there's just not that much to talk about. Like, I have a long list of notes here, but it's going to go pretty fast. Because, as I said before, this is just a side-scroller time trial game at its core. And it's funny because, like, when I first played this 10 years ago, that's not what I wanted from this. Like, I didn't really have experience with this. And I specifically, when we wanted to do this episode, I was very adamant that I had to revisit this game, because I'm like, after how into Neon White the both of us got 2 years ago, I'm like, I really want to see if Dustforce will be able to change my mind about it. And it did, for the most part. But yeah, as I said, it is a 2D side-scroller with a time trial emphasis. There's also a local multiplayer mode, but I never played it. Did you ever check that out?
No, I've never played the multiplayer. I played this when it came out on Xbox 360, and I definitely was not playing any like local multiplayer on 360 like that.
Sure. From what I was reading about it, like, I don't know the exact details, but one of the details that stuck out to me is that some players can like place like the leaves or dust or whatever. So I don't know if like is it almost like a Rayman Legends thing of like you've got multiple people playing the actual like platforming, but then someone else is like putting hazards or something down. I'm not sure.
Right.
But I just didn't really feel like looking it up. I didn't know if I could even find local multiplayer Dustforce footage on YouTube nowadays, so I just didn't even bother trying.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, the main central theme of this game is dust, or rather just kind of sweeping in general. So you're running around cleaning various forms of it off the ground. In the first world, you've got leaves, there's dust. In later worlds, there's goo. When you get to the laboratory levels, you're just cleaning stuff, both off the floor, but also off of walls and ceilings and stuff. Your suite of moves include a jump and double jump, dash and air dash, wall jump, wall run, ceiling run and cling, light and heavy attacks, special attacks, and sliding down slopes. I think that's basically everything that's in the game, verb set wise. That said, there's like a lot of subtle movement stuff going on with it that aren't even like immediately apparent, even if you do the tutorial stuff. So for instance, you can double jump or air dash out of your first initial jump, but you cannot do both of those actions. Like you have to refresh by either landing or killing an enemy in midair to refresh and get a triple jump or an air dash or whatever. My favorite of these subtle little things is the difference between the heavy and light attacks. So obviously you have light attacks they come out faster and they do less damage than the heavy attacks. But way more interestingly is if you defeat an enemy near a surface, be that the floor, wall, or ceiling with a heavy attack, they're like dirt or whatever's on them, be it leaves or dust or whatever, it like flashes off of them and like hits the wall or whatever they're near. So like you want to build up your combo in this game, both to get a combo meter and get a better rank, but also to build up your special meter. So it becomes a legitimate strategy, I found while replaying this, to like go out of your way to hit enemies kill them with heavy attacks, and then quickly get their dust off the ground to then build your combo meter up so you can have another special attack. I hope that doesn't sound too complicated or breathless, but I was really, really pleased with like that gameplay loop when I was playing this. I know you said you played like an hour of it. Did you run into any like, I don't know, stuff like that? Did you run into any instances where you were kind of having to push up against like the boundaries of the movement mechanics?
Not really, just in little time that I spent revisiting it. But what's funny is when playing this game, when it originally came out, I really liked it back then on Xbox 360. And back then, like early Xbox Live Arcade stuff, or even like later Xbox Live Arcade stuff, I guess, like I was just buying stuff kind of with reckless abandon on Xbox Live Arcade. I had way too much disposable income back then, and I would just spend it on stupid stuff. And I remember picking this up and being into it kind of in, there are a lot of games that were kind of like this back then. Super Meat Boy, N+, stuff like this. And despite that, I never really played this game as a speed game, despite the fact that I have always really enjoyed speed games. We've talked about Monkey Ball. Yeah, you mentioned Neon White. Like, I've always enjoyed this kind of thing, but I never really engaged with Dustforce in that way. I just sort of like got through it back in the day and just kind of like played it for what it was. And I don't think I ever really like obsessed over the time trials or whatever, but weirdly enough, like even just playing the hour or so that I played just last night before this episode, I was like, oh yeah, like I could see myself really optimizing movement and, and ways through these levels. Like this definitely is a game that was designed with that in mind. And I feel like if I were to replay it today, this is another reason I wish it was on Switch or something, because it's way more my speed for my, I guess, like sensibilities about games in 2024 than it was 10 years ago or whatever,
right. Yeah, definitely. I played around 4 or 5-ish hours of this in the past 2 weeks, and of that time, at least an hour was spent on a single level. I think it was the Ascent, maybe, because like I had to figure out the exact pattern like that I needed, the exact movement that I needed to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I didn't fine tune it to the point of like a Neon White level, but like in most of the levels when I beat them, I'd be in like the top like 20,000 on the leaderboards. On this, I was on the top 5,000, so I felt okay about that for someone that like isn't professional and coming to this game 10 years late. Yeah, like you said, I find this kind of game way, way, way more appealing to me nowadays than I did back then. I will say about the controls in general, they're kind of a lot stickier than I was expecting.
Very, yes.
Like, if you watch footage of this game, you probably think to yourself, like, yeah, okay, this probably plays like Meat Boy, because it kind of looks like Meat Boy in a lot of ways. It flows a lot like Meat Boy, at least visually. It does not feel like Meat Boy at all, like not in the slightest. And this isn't me like necessarily complaining about the controls, but there is going to, if you're coming to this in 2024, there is going to be an adjustment period. Like you will not be able to just like turn this on and start zipping around.
It's non-traditional, and you and I are both big fans of non-traditional controls and movement feeling. Like, you know what the game kind of feels like to me? like the jumps are quite floaty actually. But like there's a weight and like a stickiness and a gravitational pull to it. It almost feels like when you're playing Mario Galaxy and you're being pulled down to the planet or something like that, like the gravity on like the little planetoids in something like that. Because your character naturally sort of gravitates towards whatever it is they're trying to sweep up or whatever. And so there is like a stickiness, there is like a weight. And the weight and the gravity combined with the inherent floatiness of the jumping does have like there is a learning curve. Like you do have to get used to that. It's not the kind of thing that's going to feel automatic. It's not going to make automatic sense to you. And you have to learn little intricacies about like, oh, like if I double jump or whatever, then I don't have my dash or whatever, you know, like little tiny things like this. So spend some time with it, but it is a very interesting platformer, but it's not going to feel immediately snappy. It's not going to be the kind of thing that like, you just jump right into.
A really neat thing the game does, though it's also kind of annoying to me, is that the levels are in a hub world, and like you need to explore the hub world to access the actual individual levels. So they do cool stuff with that. Like you actually have to like learn to even reach some levels. You have to actually really learn some in-depth mechanics, like how like the dashing works and all this stuff. I know this all sounds basic, but like I don't see many games structured like this nowadays, of like even the levels themselves are hard to get to sometimes.
The hub world is a level, right?
Yeah.
Like in a way.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't have the exact quote. I saw it a couple days ago when I first started putting together the notes, but apparently at one point they were trying to make the levels like seamless, like it was just gonna be one big thing. There wasn't going to be a hub world. And like you can kind of see that, especially like the ascent and like the peak or whatever. Like they feel like they should have been one big level in a way.
Right.
That was interesting. Though I also feel like that could have been very annoying too. So I think the hub world is not exactly the most elegant solution, but it is really neat. In like a throwback way, playing this in 2024, I would rather they do this hub world the way they did than do something dumb and different, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I feel like probably a lot of like maybe speedrunners of the whole game in general, not just level runners, would probably prefer like a level select thing, but I think once you open the door, you can just like go to the main hub and just teleport directly to any level you've completed, I think. But yeah, it's kind of messy, and you have to like learn the layout of the land just to access the levels and to figure out like, okay, which ones did I do and not do. Yeah, it's an interesting way to handle the level selection in a platformer like this. Also, as you go, you unlock keys. These are bronze, silver, and gold. So like I'd say around half the levels are locked behind locked doors when you start the game. And I don't know exactly how the key progression works. Like you get a meter that builds up after you beat every level, and then once it's full, you get a key. I'm guessing it mostly is like first you're getting bronze, then later silver, then gold, because I didn't start getting gold for a little while. Also, the bronze, silver, and gold doors kind of denote difficulty. These gold levels do not mess around. As someone that loves 2D platformers, the gold levels are kind of ridiculous.
Oh man, I didn't even go for any of that, so I believe it.
I beat one of the gold levels. I don't remember what the name of it was. And then I tried, it took me a while, probably took me over like half an hour just to beat it. I didn't get a good score or anything. And then I tried one called Moon Tower just because the name sounded cool.
Good name, yeah.
And within like 5 minutes, I'm just like, no, I'm good. I don't need to do this. I'm just trying to put together a podcast, man. I don't need to beat every gold level.
It doesn't have to be like this, dude.
It was interesting. I didn't make any specific notes about this, but I saw like the reception at the time of when the game came out. A lot of reviews mentioning that they couldn't even finish the game, but they all really liked it. Like this got good reviews, but yeah, multiple notes about like, yeah, this game kind of like destroyed me, and I'm not even going to try and beat the levels, but it's still really cool. 8 out of 10 kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this game is also, I've seen this ran at multiple GDQs. Like there's a huge, speedrunning community and stuff around the game, and this is a fun game to watch being played at a high level. I will say that. It's always a treat. Whenever I get to see somebody speedrun this game, always a treat.
You know what? Despite watching a lot of GDQs, I don't think I've ever actually watched a speedrun of it, and I think I'm probably going to do that like right after we get off.
It's fun, dude. You'll like it's fun to watch. It's a fun game to watch being played at a high level. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. One other quick thing to know about the game is that there are 4 playable characters. So I didn't realize this until I started doing research, but each of the characters has a different, very subtle differences in like their stats, but the game does not tell you this at all. They don't even hint at it. Yeah, they don't actually tell you what these differences are, and they don't hint at it. And I think the idea is like, yeah, if you get good enough at the game, you'll feel the difference. And yeah, what I can tell is that the default blue dude, the broom guy, as I called him, I think he's the fastest.
Okay.
He definitely feels faster to me than my favorite character, which is vacuum guy with mustache, which is what I called him. He's just an old dude with a big sweeper vacuum. Then there's also a red sweep lady, and then a purple woman that rounds out your character selection. I don't know. There's probably like a wiki somewhere that you can find this information at if you're interested in, but most of the leaderboards that I could see, people were using the default broom guy, so I'm just assuming he's the fastest. Did you have a favorite of these 4, or was it just kind of set dressing for you?
I'm a sweep lady main, for no particular reason other than I like her design the best. I don't know. I just think she looks cool. And I don't think I even knew that there were differences, but that makes sense. Because, yeah, I think when people speedrun the game, I think they all just play as the default dude.
Yeah. Yeah. The leaderboards, it was basically all the default dude at the high levels that I could see. But yeah, I wasn't going to let that stop me from using the vacuum guy with the mustache.
Hang on, Matt. Breaking news.
Go on.
I did find here on the Capcom USA website a post from January 24th, 2014. Get to know the delicate differences between Dustman, Dust Girl, Dust Kid, and Dustworth.
Okay.
So
I was
their names.
I was weirdly closer with their names than I would have thought I was.
So they do have like stat differences, yes, and they do have like different advantages and disadvantages. Dust Girl, the sweep lady has a wider like heavy attack range, I guess. And Dust Kid has higher attack speed and a triple jump.
A triple jump?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. And then Dustworth has the best jump height in the game, but the lowest attack speed. They all also have little character bios on the website here. This is really good, and also like little animated GIFs. I would recommend people look at Capcom's website post on this. It's pretty good.
Huh, I'm going to have to look at that. For whatever reason, I didn't think to try and look up Capcom's website for any information on this.
Dustworth is a really good name for that dude, though.
He's just like, if you imagine like any like grumpy looking janitor from a cartoon ever, he's just
like
that.
Scruffy from Futurama, basically.
Yeah, Dustworth is fantastic, especially if they all have dust in the name. Otherwise, the only other notes I really had here were that the main direct sources of inspiration cited for Dustforce were N and N+, which we mentioned before, and then this game called Nikujin that I'd never heard of before.
Me either, yeah.
Yeah, I looked up footage this morning. I think it's I don't know if it's Flash. I think it's just a freeware game from 2004. It's a Japanese freeware game. Yeah, you can definitely see the inspiration. There's a lot of like wall clings and wall jumps and ceiling hangs and stuff. Like it really, if you look up footage of this, you'll be like, oh yeah, this looks like a proto Dustforce in a lot of ways. Other sources of inspiration were Super Smash Bros. Melee and Dragon Ball Z. So like 12-year-old me thinks this is the coolest game ever made. Yeah. Specifically, they were citing Melee for its simplicity and approachable controls, but with gameplay hiding, depth for advanced players, and then Dragon Ball Z for its animation. And yeah, the animation in this game is like really, really, really good.
It's really good, yeah.
Like shockingly so for the type of game it is, And yeah, I will say, while playing this, and this is before I started doing research, but while playing this, I was like, I kind of want to play Smash 64 and play the board, the platforms mini game.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, that and Break the Targets, that's kind of what this is. And I never thought about it. And then when I was on the Wikipedia and it specifically was citing Melee, I was like, oh, okay. Like that actually does make a lot of sense to me now. Like it, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, the simplicity of this game, but like the speed and all the like mechanics and all, I think wave dashing exists in this too. I watched a couple of the level of the highest, the rank 1 replays while playing this, and it looked like they were doing some form of wave dashing. So I don't know. It's interesting that they specifically seem to get inspired by just the movement of Melee as opposed to the actual like what you're doing in Melee.
It does feel that way. Well, you know what too, and now that you say that, I'm kind of thinking about. I was trying to articulate the way this game feels, and now that I'm thinking about it, it does feel a little bit like the. It does feel a little bit like the way Fox feels to play.
Yeah,
like the way that Fox has like these big floaty jumps, but he like has the fastest fall speed in the game. Like. That stickiness, like it does kind of feel like that. There is definitely Smash DNA, and so I like it's the kind of thing that I don't know that I ever would have arrived to that when playing the game on its own, but knowing that it was such a big inspiration for the game now, I'm like, yeah, like everything kind of falls into place. Like that was the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, like and as someone that loves Smash, like it also gave me like another new appreciation for Dustforce of like. Yeah. If I had known that 10 years ago, like I probably would have given the game more of a shot than I did beyond just like playing it for half an hour and be like, I wish this was just a normal platformer and then just turning it off, you know? Right. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I love finding stuff like that, like realizing like even in this game I'm intimately familiar with being Smash Bros and trying to play Dustforce, I still wasn't seeing that connection fully until reading something. Then all of a sudden, yeah, like you said, it just all clicks into place. It's like, oh yeah, this game is inspired by Super Smash Bros. Melee. It's not just the obvious things like N and Super Meat Boy and whatever. Yeah, I find that really interesting. But I don't know, did you, I feel like I talked a lot during this section. Did you have anything you wanted to add about like just the general game of Dustforce?
No, I do think that like, you know, some of the vibes and like the objectives I think are pretty unique. I like any game that kind of, you know, recontextualizes the player's objective in a level. It kind of does remind me of Neon White, like the sort of like, you know, in Neon White, it's like required that you also kill every enemy in addition to getting through the level as quickly as possible. And it sort of reminds me of that in that way too. It's not gated the same way that something like Neon White is, but I like any game that kind of layers objectives for the player like that naturalistically and presents a challenge of how to most quickly tackle those objectives. It's the kind of thing like I wish this were on Switch.
Yeah, because I do too.
Like I could see myself, you know, dumping quite a bit more time into this in the modern age than even back then. You know, it appeals way more to my sensibilities now than it did then. And you know, also Nintendo, man, these losers gotta just put Melee on Switch like at some point. Y'all should just do that. Like, if you're gonna do all this, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox or tangent about this too bad, but like, if y'all are gonna be like all weird about having Melee at tournaments or weird about people playing Melee on emulators or whatever, just release the game on Switch. Like, just do that.
Okay, so first of all, I would just take Smash 64 being on the N64 app. I haven't played Smash.
Why hasn't that happened?
Yeah, I don't get it. I haven't played Smash 64 in like 20 years. I would love to just play some Smash 64, even for just half an hour. I would get a big kick out of that. Again, they never brought back that board the platforms minigame to any of the other ones. Like, just do that. I don't know. I've got mixed. We don't need to go on this whole Smash tangent, but like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about like putting Melee on Switch because I feel like the way it would be handled wouldn't satisfy anyone's expectations anyway. So it's just like, you're probably just better off just playing in the dark corner, playing your emulated modded Melee copies,
Yeah, for the community, dude. Like just to like bridge that gap for the community to where they have like some kind of official. And yeah, to be fair, you're probably right, because like the official emulation of the game, if they were to re-release it, would probably not be satisfactory. Just being real. But if there was a well emulated, I don't even mean like a full remaster treatment. Like if there was just a way to get the game running exactly as it does on GameCube on Switch, just so that there can be an officially Nintendo sanctioned thing, so people don't have to jump through all these hoops anymore. Like that would be ideal. I think people would get a kick out of that. And I also think that the people who are nostalgic for GameCube games would probably pay $60 for that, for just a bare bones port of Smash Melee, the way they did Pikmin 1 and 2, you know?
I mean, I'm with you. I also would gladly pay $60 just to play Melee on my Switch like an idiot. Though I also, like, at some point then you have to start asking, like, well, would they dare to release that without any kind of online in 2024 or the modern age in general? If they do, like, is anyone going to be happy with that? Because the Smash Online has sucked across all 3 of the entries, or 4 of the entries that they've done it with. Again, I love playing Smash, and I'll still occasionally play Smash Online with like friends, but like I tried playing with rando. The only time I did randos in Ultimate was just to get the achievements that you needed from it. And I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm never touching this again because the lag is just so bad. Even when you have an Ethernet cable plugged in, it's whatever.
I was gonna say, when you got Sakurai begging people to use their Ethernet cable on a video or whatever, like things are in a bad way.
I'm curious, did they confirm? Again, this isn't really the place for whatever. It's a short episode. Did Capcom confirm that like the Marvel versus Capcom collection, is that going to have rollback on Switch as well as everything else?
I think the other collections have had that, if I'm not mistaken. So I imagine so.
Yeah, I'm just curious because like when they added rollback, now granted this was for an old game, but when they added rollback to Dragon Ball FighterZ, they added it to everything except the Switch version. But maybe in their minds it just wasn't worth the time as opposed to like a technical thing. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to play Melee on my Switch with rollback netcode. That would be fantastic. I'm not even that big of a Melee dork. I like it, but I'm not like the biggest Melee person. But yeah, I would gladly pay it. I'd pay like $80 for that. Honestly, that would be a great time.
Yeah, I just mostly feel bad for that community. Like they've really gone through it. The Smash community in general has gone through it with all these like controversies and then all the pushback from Nintendo over the years. Like it just kind of sucks, man. And like I would love for Nintendo to like, and I know that now people can submit like forms to host tournaments that take like forever to get approved, and I don't know, man. I just feel like that's a huge community that has just been dogged by Nintendo like time and time again for years, and like it'd be great for Nintendo to just do whatever they could to like smooth that bridge in some way for them.
I mean, yeah, it was wild when Nintendo like started embracing that scene for like Smash 4. Was that? Yeah, Smash 4 is when, and then they kind of dropped it like a hot potato. But again, whatever. This isn't
the Smash episode. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, maybe people should just do official Dustforce speedrunning tournaments instead. That's the closest you're going to get to officially sanctioned Melee tournaments in the modern age. That said, let's go on our last break of the episode, and we're going to play Sepia Tone Library and Pillars of Pepper, and we'll be right back. that was Sepia Tone Library and Pillars of Pepper, once again from the Dustforce soundtrack. Real quickly, I guess I'll read the note for Sepia Tone Library. I set out to create a song for the mansion setting, but I kept accidentally creating science-y noises, bubbly pops, and electrical hums, which kept reminding me of goopy breakers and high voltage cables, so this ended up being a lab song. I do think the lab is like my favorite environment in the game, just because it looks so different from the rest, and you're cleaning up goop instead of like dust or whatever. Also, just a lot of good words in those liner notes: sciency and bubbly and goopy. Just
goopy, yeah.
The only real note I had is that, well, for one, reminds me of the Firewatch PS4 theme. Just I don't know, just very soothing to me. Also, I love the popping synths that come in around a minute and just kind of stay for the rest. I really loved that aspect of the song.
Yeah, this is that one with those twangy guitars, right? That sepia tone makes sense. It's got a little bit of a Western flavor, a little bit to it, right? It's got a pretty different vibe from basically everything else on the soundtrack, and yeah, it's got these like that twangy like guitar with like the deep bass tones, like that. Soothing's a good word for it, like that. It's a very soothing feel to me. I didn't draw the comparison to that Firewatch thing you're talking about, but that makes sense. It does sort of feel like that. The only other note that I have on this, the little like descending minor key guitar passages in this song remind me of the Tristram theme from Diablo 2. Like in Diablo 2, like the Tristram theme has that kind of like these descending like like just kind of like walking down these like minor key passages. And I've always loved the way that sounds, and this kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, never played Diablo 2, so that's going to be one I have to listen to while editing this episode.
Yeah, we could do Diablo music episode. Diablo 2 in particular has an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, I've heard that. You know, I really have barely played like any Blizzard games over the years, so it's just not like a... I played Diablo 4 and I played Overwatch. That's mostly kind of it. I owned StarCraft and never installed it. I got it for $10 at Walmart in like 2002. Yeah, that's a big like missing chunk in my gaming knowledge space. When it comes to Pillars of Pepper, I guess I'll read the liner notes again. To create the music for the city areas of the game, I turned to the genre of instrumental hip hop for inspiration. Yet somehow the end result felt completely different and was probably more appropriate for the lab setting. I kind of like that one just because that was kind of like the least useful of the liner notes.
Yeah, kind of a nothing statement.
Yeah. And I don't have many notes about the song, but I will say this is the song that I first heard from the Dustforce soundtrack. My buddy Jim, the summer of 2012 or 2013, probably 2012, he was blasting this in his car most of that summer, and the first time he picked me up and this was playing, I'm like, what is this? He's like, dude, this is Dustforce. You don't know this? I'm like, no, I've never heard of it. And then he was explaining the soundtrack. We listened to it. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Have you played it? He's like, no, I haven't played it, kind of thing. So yeah, I just have a lot of memories associated with Dustforce soundtrack as a whole, as we've talked about before. But yeah, this song in particular, I think of my friend Jim. Just that whole summer of driving around listening to Dustforce, and we listened to a lot of the Cure greatest hits, and then
let's go.
What was the name of that? Do you know Breakbot?
I don't think so.
Oh, Breakbot is extremely good, but I forget the name of that album. But that must have been the summer that album came out too. Yeah, just Dustforce, the Cure greatest hits, and whatever that Breakbot album was called. That whole summer was just nothing but that.
Sick, yeah. The only real notes I have about Pillars of Pepper have nothing to do with the song. I mean, I do like the song. Like it's got that kind of like one thing that I really like about the song is how like drowned out the main melody is. Like it's got this like the beat of it is so like oppressive that like the core melody is almost like buried a little bit in a cool way. Like it's kind of like a fading memory trying to make its way through the noise, you know, or something like that. But the first thing I thought of, and this is I grew up Christian, is Pillars of Pepper a reference to the pillar of salt and like Lot's wife from the Bible? Are you familiar with that?
A little bit, and yeah, I always assumed that was the case, but yeah, too bad the liner note didn't say anything about it.
I was like, is that what this is? Because it made like, you know, the whole story from the Bible, if I'm remembering right, is that like Sodom and Gomorrah were like these very corrupt like cities, and God essentially like smites those cities, and this like family is told about this ahead of time, and this guy, I don't remember his name, but his wife Lot, like they're told like, hey, you need to run away from here and don't look back. If you do look back, you're going to be punished. Like leave this in your rear view and don't look back. She does look back, and she's like instantly turned into a pillar of salt. And it's sort of like a parable about like not looking back on, you know, the sins of the past or whatever, I guess. And I don't mean to sound dismissive of the Bible. I just don't have like, you know, I don't, my memory of it is not that good. Other than I do remember this story, and Pillars of Pepper, I felt like kind of has to be a reference to that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that this, I guess, plays during like the city portion of the game, because with that texture in my mind, it gives like a little bit of a grimy, like Sodom and Gomorrah vibe to a city in Dustforce or something. I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if that was what was in their head, but that's what it made me think of as somebody who grew up Christian.
I mean, yeah, someone that has never read the Bible and didn't grow up that Christian. Yeah, that was the immediate first thought that came to my mind too, was the pillar of salt. So I think we can canonize it. I think that is
okay.
The story. Let's just do it.
Nobody's here to contest us. So.
We can confirm right now that Lifeformed was inspired heavily by the Christian Bible.
By Sodom and Gomorrah in the Christian Bible. That's right.
With that said, do we want to get to the YouTube comment oversharing corner?
Let's do it.
Okay. As a reminder, this is the section of the show where we read off any funny or memorable or interesting or insane comments we've stumbled across while grabbing songs for this episode. Honestly, I didn't really find that many. An annoying thing that happened with this episode is that there was some, I don't know his name, Fat Emu or something. There must have been some meme creator 10 years ago that made memes meme videos that revolved around Dustforce soundtrack and medical emergencies, like someone having a heart attack and the Dustforce theme is playing. So like, especially in the first half of the soundtrack, you get to scroll really far to find things that aren't people just making references to these stupid memes. Pretty annoying, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's annoying, yeah.
But I did find there were a couple good things I found in there. I'll read this one off first from YouTube user ThangQ Anime. I guess that's Thank You Anime. They commented on Cider Time 9 years ago. I literally just heard this randomly on the radio on NPR. WTF. This has been my favorite song from Dustforce, but of all the places to hear it, haha. I wonder if they even knew where it was from. Not sure if Terrence Lee is reading the comments, but I'm just curious, did they personally ask you for permission to do so? Lifeform did not respond to that. However, there are replies that got into this a little bit. Other people confirmed that, you know, he was not crazy, and I was not crazy either, that I heard this also on NPR 10 years ago, or 9 years ago, I guess. Apparently I don't know how far back it goes, but there's a show on NPR hosted by someone named Emily Reese that is a video game music show, or at least a segment of a show on NPR. I don't think it's going on anymore, from what I can see. However, Emily Reese does have a currently running video game music podcast called Level with Emily. That's levelwithemily.com. Yeah, it seems, from the little bit I watched, it is much more professional than BitHarmony, which makes sense. Go. It gets like so for one, each episode she's interviewing the actual composer or composers, One of the more recent episodes is actually with Lifeformed and his wife, talking about the Tunic soundtrack. I don't know. It seems, as you would expect, as someone who worked at NPR for years, it is very professionally done and well made. It is also on YouTube. She removes the music from YouTube for obvious reasons, so she recommends listening to the podcast version, but it is on YouTube if you want to check it out. And yeah, it just seems to get way, way, way more into the actual music side of things than we do, which again makes sense. But yeah, if you're looking for more video game music podcasts and maybe one with a slightly different bent, a slightly more professional bent than us, that might be one you want to look into. Again, that's Level with Emily and levelwithemily.com.
Wow, I'm gonna have to listen to this. Emily, if you're listening, can we do a Bit Harmony Level with Emily collab at some point? Can we can we drudge down her good name and her professionalism with Bit Harmony?
So we can talk about butter to some poor person.
So we can talk about eating margarine with your bare hands to an NPR professional.
Yeah, this is gonna be the Silent Hill episode or something. Like,
oh my god. Oh, Emily, don't be turned off by that, Emily. We're professionals too. We're just as professional as NPR. We'd love to chat with you.
From my perspective, I was just happy to actually hear other people or see other people also just being like, wait, why was this playing on NPR? Because that was my reaction at the time. I remember I was driving to get Taco Bell some Sunday afternoon, and all of a sudden Cider Time was playing. I was like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, that's a very interesting experience. That was not my experience being introduced to Dustforce, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Did you have one comment, I think, to read?
I do. I found a pretty good comment. It's probably best that we don't end with this. And Emily, you can ignore this comment. Emily, if you're listening, this is not indicative of Bit Harmony as a whole.
It kind of is.
YouTube user Ignites77, which is IGNIGHT night, so Ignites. I guess they're being clever about that. Commented on Swimming While It Rains 2 years ago. This song helped me push through an epic case of diarrhea. Eternally grateful.
I'm wondering if that is also one of the Fat Emu memes, the medical emergency Dustforce.
Maybe.
It could possibly be. Then again, it was 2 years ago, so maybe not. Maybe it really is a true story.
Yeah, I really, I'm a sucker for like, just plain language like that, and I like the 1-2 punch of like the crassness of having diarrhea with the sort of like more graceful speech of eternally grateful. Like I like the 1-2 punch of that. Like, this helped me push through an epic case of diarrhea. Like, epic is a weird word for that.
See, when you started saying like you were a sucker for like blunt language, I thought you were gonna say you're a sucker for poop, and then I also
sucker for poop.
Also, Wilkins hates when people say the word poop, so I'm sure this episode is poison for him.
Yeah. He paused it. This is going to be his comment next week. He paused it right here.
He's going to undo his previous... He's going to get on his wife's Spotify and leave a 1-star review to go along his original 5-star review.
They talked about poop.
We talked about a lot of things, especially over the course of 12 episodes. Lastly, we've got YouTube user Troll Shaman. That's troll spelled with a zero. Player. Maybe, yeah, that makes sense. Troll Shaman with a 0 instead of an O commented on Magnetic Tree 6 years ago. This song, for me, captures the feeling of Fernweg perfectly. I haven't played Dustforce and I stumbled upon the song, but it just makes my heart ache. Props to Lifeformed. Are you familiar with the German word Fernweg?
No, but now when I heard you, I was going to ask you what this is, but then I heard you pronounce it like Fernweh, and I was like, oh, this must be a German thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So Fernweh is actually very interesting. It often gets translated as Wanderlust, but that's not really accurate. because also Wanderlust is in itself a German word. It is Wanderlust. So I wanted to make sure I got this right. Fernweh is like one of my wife's favorite words, period. Just like, not just like what it means, but also the flow of it and stuff, how it sounds. But I asked her to give her best explanation of Fernweh so I wouldn't mess this up. So I've transcribed her answer here. Fernweh is more like a longing and desire for something that often has to do with our childhood, like nostalgia. It's a deeper thing than just Wanderlust. You just want new and fresh experiences and a feeling of wonder and the unknown. Usually it's when everyday life stuff annoys you and you get depressed. It's a longing to leave the here and now, basically. So yeah, I thought that was, I think that's pretty accurate. Also, we talked about it, like Magnetic Tree is kind of like one of the vibiest songs on the game too. I wasn't expecting to hear or to read someone talking about Fernweh on the Dustforce YouTube comments, you know?
Yeah. I really like that word too. Well, and it's interesting too, because I think a lot of people associate nostalgia, or the, I guess, English concept of nostalgia, or the way the English language doesn't often, I don't know, maybe it's because like we, grew up speaking English or whatever, but English to me typically does not have the complexity that other languages do, or the English words don't capture the same complexities that other languages do. But nostalgia for English speakers is typically associated with like, happy feelings from their childhood, but really like the etymology of nostalgia is rooted in like longing and sadness and pain, like that's what the root of that word actually is. And so like it's about going back to a time or a place where you were happier than you are now, and that's why nostalgia, as somebody who in some ways loves nostalgia, nostalgia is also very dangerous, I think, for a lot of people, especially people in the gaming space, people who've been playing games their whole lives. You can overdose on nostalgia, I think.
Yeah.
You can let nostalgia rule over everything you do, and I don't think it's a healthy place to be in. At least it isn't for me personally. I have to microdose nostalgia a lot of the time. So
I've been saying it for a while now, like especially in the past few years, I view nostalgia as like pretty poisonous, like the at least for the people that like just thrive in it, like that's all they want. It's just like, yeah, man, I get it to a certain extent, but yeah, you can't go back there. You can't get those feelings back. It's what's that Frank Ocean song that you will never be those kids again. Like, yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like you just have to kind of accept it and like, like embrace it and let it be a part of you and who you are going forward. But yeah, don't wallow in it. You got to get through it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it really, there's a Porter Robinson song off of his new album called "Is There Really No Happiness?" And that song is about that. The hook of the song is there really no happiness without this feeling? And when it's about nostalgia, and it's about this concept of so many people are going through life where the only happiness they feel is from being nostalgic of a time when they were happy because they're so miserable now, and that song hit me like a freight train, dude. It made me think about people in my life. It made me think about myself. And he compares it like in that song to being like a drug. Like I've been chasing the dragon and you've been watching me weep, like it feels like that. And it's powerful. And I'm glad that I learned about Fernweh today. I like that word kind of captures the inherent sadness of nostalgia and the potential danger of it, I think, if you go too far with it. So.
It also reminds me of a really dumb Arrested Development bit where he's in like, I think Afghanistan, and he's like translating something, and then he's like, oh, that word means like a child's laundry, but we don't have a direct translation for it in English. Because you're right. There in German, there's so much more like specificity with words like that, and I assume in other languages too. Yeah,
Japanese too, for sure. Yeah,
right. Like English is just very broad strokes kind of thing. So it's just interesting too that Fernweh gets translated as Wanderlust, but again, Wanderlust is in itself a German word that means something slightly different. So, that has been it for the YouTube comment oversharing corner. I'm going to hand it off to Seth to do our our Patreon and Discord stuff.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for your support on Patreon. Really appreciate it. You can support us over there to get early access to the show. Check out the Koopa Cast, some other Patreon exclusive content. We actually just recently kind of reformatted the Patreon, so I appreciate everybody for kind of sticking with us in this transitionary period over there. And shout outs to Justin Grantley, who joined the Patreon recently since the last episode at the Golden Banana tier. That is actually the director of one of the voiceover projects that I do called The Other Side. And I voice like 5 characters and counting in The Other Side. And he recently joined the Patreon. So thanks for checking out the Patreon, Justin. Really appreciate it. Again, you can send in voicemails to the show by dialing 216-230-8540. That number again is 216-230-8540, or send in your voicemails to bitharmonypod@gmail.com. We've got links to that in the show notes. We've got links to the Discord community in the show notes as well. Friendly, free, welcoming folks in there. You can join the Discord and hang out with us there. And yes, support on Patreon. BitHarmony is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you. Let's thank our patrons, starting with our Triforce tier. Thank you to Adam Caparello, to Bowza, to Dan and Luma, Daniel Nahosa, Foolish Fuji, John Cummins, Josh Vaughn, Liger Woods 330, Shy Guy, Sparky, The Don Rob, and Uncle Randy. And thank you to our Golden Banana tier, Alan, #Look to the Cookie, Big Dogs Only, Bill Tucker, Bob Loblaw, SAZ, Gamer Jason, Justin Grantley, Liam D, Marcus O'Neill, Phelan Ward, Rob Yapel, Sean Ashton, Solo, and Tim A. Thank you all so much. You get a 7-day free trial to the Golden Banana tier as well. If you want to check it out for free for a week and see what all the fuss is about, check out the Koopa Cast before everybody else does in like 11 days or whatever. So thanks so much for your support on Patreon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. And then I just noticed here that we never actually finished our conversation about what our next episode should be. Should we just go with the last thing we talked about?
Yeah, why not? Let's just do that. Yeah, that sounds good.
Next episode of Bit Harmony should be hitting your feeds on September 22nd. September 22nd. And that's going to be on Tetris Effect. We really just, we couldn't decide on what to do next, and we're going to do Tetris Effect. Sounds pretty cool.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I love that game. That game makes me cry, and there's going to be a lot of weird things to talk about.
Yeah, it is going to be a weird one, I think. I got plenty of PlayStation VR stories to get into there. With that said, taking out this week is no, we can't do that. We got the haikus. Wow, what am I thinking? Okay, hold on. Let me pull up my haiku.
I think I went first last week. I think you go first this week. Is that right?
I'll take your word for it. That's for whatever reason, It's impossible for me to remember who went first.
Me too. I don't guess it really matters, but it's impossible for me to remember also.
Yeah. Okay. This one, I didn't have that much interesting insight into Dustforce, I feel like. So this is just kind of the first thing that came to my head. While sweeping a jolt, 10 years gone in an instant, akin to this dust. And that is just
wow.
That's just a reflection on the fact that I can't believe it's been over a decade since I first played Dustforce.
That's really good. You're so good at, like, with your haikus, it's I think a recurring theme. You're good at making your lines, your passages and your haikus connect. Mine are like just so disconnected. Like, I don't know, like each line I feel like is like so different. You're really good at, like, that's so punchy to me. 10 years gone in an instant, akin to this dust. That's like very punchy to me. I like that a lot.
I appreciate it. I mean, I see when I look, I on my sheet right now, I have all my haikus from previous episodes above it too. And like, I don't know, I just see, I mean, I guess this is the same thing for anyone, but I just see the flaws in them. Like, I just see like my own bad patterns and stuff, so I appreciate that. But no, I think yours are the Kirby Canvas Curse one last time really got me.
Yeah, I don't know, whenever I write a haiku to me like always end up being like tone poems or something. Like they're like I just try to convey like tone, and that's certainly going to be the case here with Dustforce. So here we go. Leaves swirl in the air. Silent sweepers dance with grace, clear paths through the dust. So,
yeah,
there you go.
No, I think that's pretty cool. See, I think your haikus are more like what haikus are supposed to be anyway. I think that's more accurate to an actual haiku.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was really. I Silent Sweepers. I was proud of coming up with that line because I was like, yeah, these. It is a little bit weird that there's no like that they are silent.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, you're right.
Something contemplative about that really kind of struck me playing it last night when I wrote this. So,
also we both had some form of sweep in our haikus, so that too.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, now we can end the show.
Yeah, now we can end the show. Finally, God, I can't believe it's been 10 hours. No, it's been pretty short this time. Actually short this time. We're taking you out this week is Undiscovery, which I believe is a song they added for the DX version of Dustforce. It was a free update that had some new stages, like I think a stage creator mode, a stage editor mode, and I believe 1 or 2 new songs from Lifeformed, and this is one of those songs. So that's what's taking us out. Join us next time. We're talking about Tetris Effect, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.